Shalom, everybody. Welcome back to HaRav Gottlieb's articles. I'll be referring to him as the Rebbe Shlita as always. The translated articles are in the back of the book, Giving, the translation of Matan Torah, as translated by Arya Siegel. We are on the third essay on page 148. Just give me a moment to pull up the live stream in case we have any viewers, questions, concerns, comments, the like. Essay begins. All of creation is God's domain. For, quote, there is nothing but God, from Exodus, Shemos 4:25. However, God has created one reality that feels it is outside of God, and that is a person's desire to receive. More specifically, the desire to receive for oneself alone being the egoism of an individual. Since God is perfect and has no desire to receive anything, then the desire to receive is considered outside of God's domain. From this perspective, therefore, there are only two things in existence: the Creator and the desire to receive. The desire to receive, as written in the Pticha l'Chochmat Kabbalah by the Baal Sulam, the opening to the wisdom of Kabbalah, that it's the Chidush, it's the novelty of reality. It is something that did not exist within the Creator, because the Creator is all-giving, all-loving. The will to receive connotes a lack, and there's no lack in a perfect being. As a side note, the Baal Sulam mentions how we should meditate on the notion that we, being the individual, each and every person, should and can meditate that they are the only thing in existence outside of God. Meaning to say, the whole world was made for you. In truth, the world was made for Adam HaRishon. And since all of us are sparks and fragments of Adam HaRishon, of the original soul of man, so too, technically speaking, the world was made for each and every one of us. But for us to actually integrate that, meditate on it, and feel it, not only see it in our consciousness, but have it be actualized in our feelings and emotions, the notion that everything is for me, how dear, how great, and that the Creator is everything outside of myself, meaning all people, interactions, relationships, every person is just a messenger of the Creator who is conversing with me, speaking with me in all myriad of ways. Again, side note, but something to consider as far as our relationship with the Creator and becoming ever more aware of our desire to receive or give. The Rebbe Shita continues. The meaning of taking in Jewish law is that one transfers something from someone else's domain to one's own domain being property in essence. When we transfer something into the domain of our desire to receive, then we have taken, and the transfer need not be visible physically, but may be a spiritual transfer. For example, to give in order to be appreciated is a manner of taking the appreciation. Also, sometimes we can perform an act of giving, but we do it just because it is convenient for us, not due to a desire to fulfill a divine mitzvah, a commandment, an opportunity to step outside of oneself and correct one's soul just a little bit more. Only an act that is done out of true love for another person or for the Creator is not considered taking. And it doesn't matter whether the physical act appears as giving or taking. Only such an act of true love does not constitute a transfer to the domain of the desire to receive. Hence the importance of at least saying thank you. There's so much in the world today about gratitude and a gratitude consciousness, a grateful consciousness, a thankful consciousness, one that is employing a sense of richness in life, a sense of joy and happiness in the details. So in every little thing, even saying after the fact, we, by God's hand, become aware that we were receiving and we didn't have proper intention, even though we wanted to or tried our best to have good intention, pure intention, giving and loving. In contrast, we were just feeding our ego. At least we can still say thank you for the opportunity to have done that thing, assuming it was learning Torah, doing a mitzvah, doing a good deed, and the like. Just because the intention was off does not take away the importance of the action itself. Because without the action, we would not have the opportunity to reflect and therefore build the awareness to take the steps forward. So to say thank you for everything, to be grateful for everything, even if it is an act of receiving after the fact, when we make that reflection, expands our kalim, says the Baal HaSulam, expands our vessels. It provides us the capacity to, in essence, receive more. Why? Because the individual that shows that they are thankful for that which they are receiving can receive more and more. The giver, being the creator, wants to give more to a fitting vessel that is appreciative of the gift. In our case, we have the opportunity to regulate our consciousness to be thankful at all times of the gift that is life. Our heart beating and our breathing, just being here. Quite a miracle. To continue, in truth, all the good in creation is given to us as a loan. This world is like an open store from which we can take whatever we want without any apparent need to pay. A borrower is obligated to return his loan and therefore is less embarrassed by receiving it. And sometimes the borrower can return the loan in a different form than what was received. The general form in which we pay for what we take in this world is suffering. This is what our sages intended when they stated, quote, "The shopkeeper sells on credit, the ledger is open, and the hand records." From Chapters of the Fathers, Pirkei Avos 3:16. Rabbi Akiva pointed out that it's a mistake to think there's no need to pay. Whatever we take in this world, whether small or large, whether material or spiritual, it's all recorded. Where is it recorded? In our consciousness. And since it is recorded there, surely there will come the day when we will need to pay for what we took. That is, God, who is the shopkeeper, gives credit by giving us the feeling that we can take anything. However, he created a system whereby the taking makes an impression within our consciousness, and therefore it will be paid for at some point, at some time, in one form of suffering or another. Reminds me of a quote I heard from my Rebbe back in yeshiva, that pain is not bad. Pain is just pain. I like to add to that and say pain is not bad and pain is not just pain. Pain is good in the big picture, as all suffering is sent to us by the Creator. And there is a notion that the Creator has pleasure from our suffering. That needs to be understood. The Creator is not, God forbid, sadistic. The same way a father has joy and happiness by seeing his child attempt to actualize their potential by means of difficult study, that gives them great pleasure. The parent is enjoyed to see the suffering of the hard work That is the child's attempt to learn the material, to integrate the material. So too, life is a school, and when we suffer, the Creator is enjoyed by that in a sense, because the Creator, obviously, doing all actions, knows how it's for our benefit, and know that it's in order to build us so that we can, with His help, integrate that which we need to learn to step forward towards the exalted state of loving and giving. But we need not suffer, continues the Rebbe Shita, for we may choose not to act out of a desire to receive. If we perform a selfless act of giving, then there is no taking. Rather, the giver has left the objects of desire in God's domain, which is the domain of selfless giving. The intention is the crucial factor. Even when we are just sitting and eating, if our only intention is to please another person or the Creator, then we have not taken anything out of God's domain. Whenever we give with this intention, we have not taken away anything. If we do choose to take, then the form of payment we give is suffering. This is for two reasons. A, taking creates a new desire. And B, no desire can be satiated. A, whenever something is taken, the taking leaves an impression in the character of the taker. And this impression creates a desire to repeat the act and once again receive pleasure from what was taken. So the taking creates a lack, meaning the lack of the repetition, which must be fulfilled. And from this we suffer. As the sages tell us, if man has 100, he wants 2. And if he has 200, he wants 4. So on and so forth. B, quote, no one dies with even half of his desires fulfilled. It's quoted from Kohelet Rabbah 1:13. Even a single desire, based on the desire to receive, can never be satiated. After pleasure is received from fulfillment of a desire, the desire must be increased in order to receive pleasure from fulfillment of the increase, a process that never ends. Diminishing returns, if you will. So we suffer from the inevitable lack of satisfaction of our desires. The forms of suffering we experience and their increase over time may slowly bring us to the conclusion that we need to seek satisfaction in some other manner. The role of life's afflictions is to bring us to realize that the only way to get true, lasting satisfaction is to follow the path of loving the other and giving to the other. For the pleasure of giving does not involve taking anything and does not transfer from one domain to another. Therefore, the shopkeeper records no debt. Furthermore, the pleasure of a sincere, loving heart is an eternal pleasure, the exact opposite of the fleeting pleasure of receiving for oneself alone, which only creates a greater need than the need it fulfills, and so never pays off. From this, we can understand the interpretation of the saying of our sages, quote, the elderly of non-educated folk, literally peoples of the earth, the more they age, the more their minds get cloudy and foolish. Mishnah Kinim 3:6. This makes so much sense in this generation, but it's obviously eternal wisdom to see the notion even painted 2,000 plus years ago. Because they are mired in materialistic earthiness and receiving, they never achieve true satisfaction, and their suffering is greater than their pleasure. On the other hand, the elderly of Torah scholars, the more they age, the more their minds get settled and wise. The wisdom referred to here is the wisdom of divinity. The wisdom in loving and giving. Regarding this wisdom, the Torah states, quote, "For this is your wisdom and your understanding in the eyes of other peoples," from Exodus or Shmos 4:6. "For only in acquiring this wisdom is there a potential for a special quality in the people of Israel." The title of Torah scholar, Talmid Chacham, is literally translated as student of wisdom. And a person merits this title not by acquiring information, but only when he or she acquires the intention of loving and giving. Because the Creator is called Chacham. He is the wise one. And the Creator is all giving and loving. So if we merit, by means of our intention, to reach a state of refinement, and by His hand providing us the miracle of eventually having a second nature of altruism, then we can be considered a Talmid Chacham, meaning we are a student of the wise. The Creator is the wise one, and we're His student because we are going in His ways, meaning loving and giving. It's quite a stark contrast to the culture of the Torah world today that refers to Talmidei Chachamim, the students of the wise, to be those learned in information. And surely there's a parameter, that's a general understanding. We're talking about the inner meaning as it pertains to the correction of our soul and the goal of our lives, meaning to reach Devekut, as we learn in Essay 1, adhesion, fusion with the Creator. Actually, Essay 2, I think. Yeah, Essay 2, cleaving to the Creator. So we see today that people of elderly age can become more disoriented and foggy and have their minds get cloudy and foolish, as stated by the Mishnah. And I would say all the more so in this generation with the plethora of desires that can be fulfilled in such mindless ways. TV, internet, and the like. How many people, old and young alike, waste their days away, literally fogging their minds, literally, with just information and nothingness. In contrast to the infinite depths and value of Torah, which we see can help make an individual wise and sharp, even in old age. He continues, "For this reason, according to Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag, this wisdom is called hidden, for it is hidden from everyone. We can see another person do a certain act, but we can't know anything about that person's motivations. For example, we might see a man eating enthusiastically, but actually he has no motivation to take anything. Another person might be occupied with giving to everyone, but is actually at the height of taking selfishly in some form. Sometimes we cannot even clarify our own motivation. Are we taking or giving? The truth about ourselves can also be hidden from us. We need a lot of help from God to see the truth completely clearly. And this is revealed only to the few who merit it. Certainly the ones who merit it are the ones who ask for it. As the Zohar provides the principle, those who seek, those who desire, will be assisted with heavenly assistance. There will be help from above to reach this higher state of consciousness. More specifically, it's the light of the Torah that provides us the means to gain the tools and the conscious parameter to differentiate between truth and falsehood, good and bad, giving or taking. Meaning, when we learn, we, according to the Bala Sulam and the Rebbe Zitzal, Baruch Shalom Ashlag, should have the intention to draw upon us, meaning to attract towards us, the light of the Torah, the light that's within the Torah. More specifically, if we want to get technical, we want to attract and absorb and draw, or makif, the great surrounding light, the light of absolute infinitude that is waiting to enter into the vessel that is humanity, and will enter more so and more so as we continue to refine ourselves. When we desire to be refined and desire to absorb this light by means of our learning, then we actually draw it upon ourselves. As the world speaks about law of attraction, so too we have here a foundational principle in Torah learning that we are attempting to attract a spiritual tool, being the light of the Torah, that provides us not only a freshness in our learning and our day and our lives, and inspiration, fear and love of the Creator. There's plenty of things to gain in holiness in regards to our inner work. But aside from that, it's akin to having a candle in a dark room before Passover, Pesach, and lighting the candle into the corners, looking for chametz, looking for the leavened bread, being symbolic of our ego. The light of the Torah provides us the ability to look within the inner recesses of our being and get illuminated and get insights into aspects of our egoism that we have yet to fix. Because we can't fix something that we don't know is there. We need to become aware of it first. Hakarat hara, the recognition of evil. And the light of the Torah helps us do this. Of course, by the Creator's hand, He's got the keys to all. In the end, He chooses. We can do our best. Leave the rest to Him. The Rebbe Shita continues. Frequently we mix our self-love with our love of others. This is a relatively good situation in which at least we have some spark of recognition of the beauty in loving the other. However, our sages did not settle for this, and therefore they stated, quote, if you mix the sake of heaven together with something else, then you are uprooted from the world. From Mesechet Sukkah 45b of the Talmud. Rebbe Baruch Shalom Ashlag interpreted this to be referring to a situation in which we mix our own pleasure together with our love of God. This causes us to be uprooted from the divine world, for we lose our connection with the divine, and thus we lack a spiritual legacy to pass on. If a spark of egoism, being the corruption of self-love and receiving for oneself alone, gets mixed in with the altruistic intention of just giving, then we get uprooted, so to speak, from higher states of consciousness. Because the spiritual worlds, the divine worlds, are all just states of being within each and every person. It's not a place, God forbid, that we go to. It's all inside. The conclusion to be drawn from this is not that we should despair of reaching perfection and therefore take a step backward from giving, but rather we should strengthen our resolve and continue to move forward. At each opportunity, we should continue to try to increase the portion of our motivation, which is for the sake of heaven, and to decrease the something else. Of course, the main thing is to be besimcha, to be in the right line in all actions, and give thanks and gratitude constantly, as we stated. Because the giving, gratitude and thanks in itself is a form of giving. The whole issue of afflictions in life is unavoidable. For there is a force that pushes, and there is a force that pulls. Trains once had an engine in front and a caboose in the back, one to pull and one to push. Similarly, we have a motivational force that pushes, which is our afflictions. And we have a motivational force that pulls us toward it, which is the pleasure that we may receive in the future. On this basis, Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag interpreted the morning blessing in which we refer to God as, quote, the one who prepares a person's steps. We walk by using two legs. One leg is suffering, and the other leg is pleasure. Only by using both these legs can we take steps. So God prepares a person's steps by A, decreasing the measure of suffering that is required for healing our soul, and B, determining how much pleasure we can receive without it becoming spiritually dangerous for us. As brought in the Rebbe's commentary in Matan Torah, walking is a physical illustration of the abstract concept of moving from one state to another. Our development being dependent on our ability to operate these two opposing forces, he says. He's behind all events that were, are, and will be. And so he prepares our steps, meaning he prepares our suffering, and he prepares our pleasures. In the end, he's guiding us and leading us to the ultimate good. In truth, the ultimate good is right here, right now. We just need to remember, tap into it. That's the end for this essay. Next one is called Similarity of Form. Till next time, all the best.